Here is part 1 of my story. I was adopted when I was 2 weeks old, and I was told at a very young age that I was adopted, and I was always told that I was adopted. I would even tell strangers that I was just meeting for the first time, that I was adopted. And my mom and dad would confirm it. Yeah, she was adopted. But I can understand, telling your child that you adopted them. But is it really necessary to continue telling them that they were adopted? Is it really necessary to continue telling everyone outside of your family that your child was adopted? I don't know, in front of her, or I just don't understand why that was the need. They told me it was because they had a neighbor that adopted their daughter, and she found out by overhearing a conversation when she was 16 that she was adopted. So it caused a lot of problems, a lot of fighting and arguing and stuff like that. And my mom and dad said that they didn't want that to happen to us. It made me feel unwanted, even though they told me they picked me out because I was special. Well, I sure didn't feel special, and I sure didn't feel like they treated me like I was special. I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel like I belonged. I had cousins that touched me sexually. I had kids in school bully me for 4 years, and I had gotten really depressed because of this, and I had my family, my family didn't have my back when I went to them and confessed the fact that my cousins were touching me. They put it on me. It was my fault. I deserved it. I wasn't able to do anything outside of just my mom and dad. I had to be with my parents all the time. I couldn't go to school functions. I couldn't go to any friends' houses. So I didn't have any friends. I was by myself. I had to do things alone. In the summertime, it was a little different. I did hang out with 1 or 2 girls, but the one girl that I hung out with, she was only in my town for the summer. And then the other girl that I hung out with, it wasn't all the time. And that was nice. That was great. She was a great girl to hang out with and everything, but I wanted to be able to go and do things and be a kid and experience what other kids my age were experiencing, and I wasn't allowed to. I spent most of my time in my bedroom with the door shut, listening to the radio. But if I was listening to Z104, like all the hair bands back in the 80s, my dad would barge into my room and tell me to turn the station, that they didn't want me listening to devil music. And so he would insist I either turn it to the classics, which back then in the 80s, the classics was, like 50s and 60s music, or country. That's what I was only allowed to listen to. So I spent most of my high school years in my bedroom by myself. It wasn't until my junior year I had a teacher tell my mom, ask me actually, if I was going to be going to do, I think it was powder puff football. And I told her, I said I couldn't do that. I wasn't allowed to do it. And so that was it. And she wanted to know what I meant by I wasn't allowed. I said, well, I'm not allowed to do anything. I gotta get on the bus and I gotta head straight home, and I have to stay at home. I can't go outside. I can't have friends, nothing. And so yeah, she, I guess, didn't like that too much. So she gave my mom a call, and she told my mom that she needs to loosen the reins a little bit with me and allow me to have a social life, because I'm a junior now, and if I'm not going to be able to socialize with anybody, I'm going to have problems when I'm an adult. So my mom started letting me do things. So I did the powder puff thing that year, and then I also did it again my senior year. And that's when I also got a job, was when I was 16, which was a battle to get a job as well. I mean, I literally had to get down on my hands and knees and pray to, or beg my dad to allow me to have a job. And my first job was Showbiz Pizza Place. And it really helped me with my confidence. Well, in a way, I guess. I still felt the need to be somebody I wasn't, just to get people to like me. But so all of this time, I never felt that I belonged. I never felt that I was wanted or loved or anything. And I became desperate for friends, desperate for anything, and all I could ever think about was finding my birth parents. Well, I'm going to skip ahead to when I was 27 and I had 2 kids of my own, and I had done private searching, like detective work, to try to find out who my birth parents were. And my adoptive mom said that she would help me, which was a surprise. I didn't think that she would, but I also told her it was because I wanted to find out my medical background. I felt it was important, which wasn't totally false, but my main reason was because I was kind of hoping that I would feel wanted, feel like I belonged somewhere, like I could stop being somebody that I wasn't, because I would find somebody that actually loved me and would actually show me that they loved me. So I found my birth mother, and her name was, she passed away on, I believe, November of 2017, of cancer. And so I called her and I talked to her and I told her who I was, and I asked her who my birth father was. Well, she didn't want to tell me who he was, but she wouldn't tell me why she didn't want me to know who he was. She just kept telling me, no, I don't want to tell you who your birth father is. And so I told her, I said, well, I would like to know, and I feel that I have that right to know who my birth father is. So she gave me his name, and I called him up, and it was the best relationship I had ever wanted. He called me almost every day. We talked like forever on the phone. He asked about me. He wanted to talk about me. He wanted to know who I was. And it was awesome. He came to visit me. He gave things to my children. He treated them like, they were his grandchildren. He really made me feel wanted. And he made me feel so loved. I was in a marriage where I was being abused by my children's father. And it was physical abuse and emotional, verbal abuse. And so he was aware of this. Because when he would talk to me on the phone, he would be like, I just don't feel right about this marriage. I feel like you're kind of dealing with something here that's not healthy. And I confessed over the phone to him because I felt so safe to somebody was finally wanting to help me. So I told him everything. So he made arrangements for me to get divorced. He paid for the lawyer, he paid for the court fees, and it was done. The guy was out of my life. But the problem is that I couldn't make rent on my own. And so, but my birth father, being the wonderful guy that he was, got me an apartment, paid my first month's rent, security deposit, and he just was there for me. And he was there for my oldest son, who was struggling in school, so he enrolled him in the Sylvan Learning Center where we lived so that my son could get extra learning assistance and tutoring and all this stuff, and he paid for all of that. He was just literally the most amazing man to ever come into my life. After 3 years of that most amazing relationship, to where I felt like I really had finally found someone who wanted to take care of me, to love me, to make me feel wanted, invited me to come live with him and his wife in the basement because I was struggling to make ends meet where I was living. So I jumped to that. I thought, oh, heck yeah. He says, all I have to do is worry about groceries. He says, the basement's all set up. It's like an apartment. It has a separate entryway and everything. And you can treat it like it's an apartment. But all we ask is that you help with groceries. Oh, no problem. No problem at all. I would totally do that. So I packed up my stuff, moved me and my 2 children down to live in his basement with his wife. And I was there for 4 days when he turned on me. He was no longer this wonderful, loving man. He insisted I call him Dad, and when I refused, I reminded him that when I met him, I was not going to call him Dad. I already had one. The man that raised me was my dad. You were just somebody that conceived me. And he knew this. I was upfront from the very start. He didn't like it. And he became abusive towards me. This man that just totally lit up my whole world became abusive. He tried to accuse me of being an unfit mother. So we were arguing, and I told him, I said, if you do not let me go, I'm going to call the police. And he grabbed the phone, and he's like, go ahead, call the police. I really don't care. I was scared. I ran across the street to the neighbor, and I asked the neighbor if I could call the police. I called the police. And when the police got there, of course, I was crying hysterically. Tried to explain to them the situation, that this was my birth father who I had found 3 years ago, and he was not allowing me to get to my children. He had them in a computer room. And when I went to try to get them, he clotheslined me, knocking me in my throat, and I went flying backwards. And that was the whole reason why I went to call the police. And so he's inside the house with one officer, and I'm outside with another officer. And he's inside telling the officer that he has with him in there that I'm this unstable mother that doesn't take care of her children, is not on any medication like I'm supposed to be, which at that time I was not on any medication. I wasn't taking any kind of antidepressants or anything, which maybe I should have been. But he told them that I was unstable. And I said, all I want is for my children. Can you help me get my kids? Well, his wife was diagnosed with, I think it's pronounced Pike's disease. It acts kind of like Alzheimer's, except maybe it's worse. It's a lot worse than Alzheimer's. But so she was dealing with the beginnings, the symptoms of that were kind of starting to show through. But at this moment, she came through too. She grabbed my kids, she put their coats on, gave them their backpacks, and told them to go out the back. She opened up the patio door, she scooted them out and said, you run around to the front, your mom's in the front waiting for you. So they came running around. I'm in the police car in the front, and I see them hand in hand, holding hands, running towards me, screaming, crying. I grab them, I hug them, and I get them inside the car. But now I'm homeless. I have nowhere to go. I don't know what to do. So I call my brother, and that's a situation where his wife didn't want my drama at her house, so I could only stay one night. Well, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. They'll give me enough time to sleep somewhere warm. And so I got my kids, but we had to leave right away the next morning. I could not be there. I had to figure things out the next day. And so I packed up my kids, took them to school early, told the school that was located half a block away from where my birth father was living. I told the principal what had happened. They got the school social service person involved, and I told her again what had happened, and I said, I'm homeless with my 2 kids. I don't know what to do. This man kicked me out basically, and he's trying to take my kids away from me. I said, you cannot let him near my kids, and gave him his name, and told him he lives right up the street from this school. And so I said that I tried calling Salvation Army, but they told me they didn't have anything available for me and my kids. The social worker got on the phone, called Salvation Army. I had a home. I had a place. When she got off that phone, she told me I was going to be staying in a hotel. They were going to pay for it the Salvation Army was going to pay for it for 30 days. After 30 days, I was going to be either had to go through Salvation Army again, or I was going to be living out of my car with my kids. During this time of staying at the hotel, they would pick up my kids I would take my kids to the school that was half a block away from my birth father, and they told me that my kids were no longer safe at that school because he would show up while they were outside for recess and try to, bring them into him. And so they didn't feel that they were safe there. So I had to take them out and put them in a whole nother school. And this whole other school, my kids had to get up at 5:30 in the morning, get on the school bus at 6. Well, actually, I think I got them up earlier since they had to be on the school bus at 6 that came to the hotel to pick them up. They went to school, had breakfast, sat there until school started, and then while they were gone, I was out trying to find a job. Salvation Army gave me vouchers to go to Goodwill or St. Vinny's to get outfits for interviews or just even clothes in general. And so I would apply at all these places, but because I didn't have a real address, I had a hotel address, they said they wouldn't, what are you doing, you live at this hotel? Well, yeah, I live there. I'm in search of a job right now so that I can get me and my 2 kids an actual home to live in. Well, we can't hire you because you don't have an actual address. I don't want somebody that lives in a hotel working for me. So it was really hard to try to find a job when I was homeless. And but I found one. I found a waitressing job at Country Kitchen, and I worked hard saving up money to get at least the rent of the place. And then I worked with the job force development area, workforce development, saying that they would give me the security deposit to go along with my first month's rent, so I had an apartment. We moved in. It was wonderful, but my birth father in the meantime would write letters. He wrote letters to my ex-husband and to my ex-in-laws, telling them that I was unstable, and that, look at, she's homeless now. She's homeless with your grandchildren or your children. You have so much rights right now. You could take those kids away from her, and you would have sole custody. And and he'd say, but I will help you do this. I will pay for all the attorney fees. I'll pay for the court costs if I can see the kids. Thank God my ex-husband disliked this man from the start, and he said no. And my ex-in-laws, I talked to them on the phone, and they said they know that I'm a good mom. They know that I'm doing my best to take care of the kids, and they are on my side. And he sent letters to my parents about me, saying that I was a mental case, and they didn't know how anybody could support someone like me, be on my side, say that I'm this great person. And so then I got married a second time to a guy that he actually set me up with when I thought things were good between us. And during that time, he would still harass me, still whatever. And I even took him to court to get a restraining order against him, which I was denied. I had all this paperwork, I had all the letters, everything, but the judge said no. So that was great. And he would show up anywhere. I mean, he was a stalker. He would show up wherever I was at. I have no idea how this man knew where I was at those times. I mean, how do they know this? How do they even know these kinds of things? I don't get it. And so he had, I had tried to keep my kids I wouldn't allow the school to take pictures of them and put them on their websites. I told them if anybody contacted the school to try to get my kids, they had to call me right away. Nobody else could pick them up but me. Nobody could talk to them but me. It was very, I kept a close eye on my kids. I wasn't going to let anybody take them away from me. And so when they got into, I think, middle school age, they wanted to be on Facebook. I kind of hesitated on letting that happen, but I didn't want to be how my mom and dad were with me. So I told them it was okay, but they had to let me know if they got any kind of contact whatsoever from my birth father. And so they agreed. And they weren't even on Facebook for, I don't know, a couple months maybe. And he was messaging them, telling them, don't tell your mom that we're talking. I want to see you guys, and don't you want to see me, and all this stuff. And they came to me right away. They told me right away that my kids were the greatest children. They still are really great people. Anyway, they told me right away that he had contacted them, so I blocked him on their pages, so he couldn't see him anymore. But then he would make new profiles and contact them through those new profiles. I blocked them. And so I told him, maybe we should give it Facebook a rest for a while until Mom can figure out how to get this guy to stop messing with us. And then I got a letter with a website. So he found out where we were living. Or, no, I'm sorry. He sent that to me on my Facebook page, a web address. And he said, check this out. So, of course, curiosity, I checked it out. Well, here it was a website bashing me. Had pictures of me from when I was a baby up until that age that I was at pretty much now. And he got those pictures from me because I made a scrapbook for both of my birth parents so they would see what they missed out on. But he used those pictures against me, put them all on this website with this long paragraph thing about how I'm an elder abuser and how I'm an unstable mother and how horribly I treated him and how I took the kids away from him and won't allow him to see these grandbabies, and really he's not even their grandparent. People need to understand, just because somebody is adopted and they talk about their birth parents, that doesn't mean that they're automatically in the family. Their birth parents, they have no access to your adopted child. Or if you're adopted and you're listening to this, they have no access to you. They gave that right up to you the day you were born. So they don't have a right to say that they were your dad or your kids' grandparent or anything like that. And people were siding with him. They were writing, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Oh, you poor man. You poor man. That is so wrong of your daughter to be doing this to you." Well, one of the people had her email address on there, so I wrote to her and I said, "How dare you believe maybe I said, do you believe everything that you see on the internet? Because what you just seen that this man wrote about me is false. Everything about it is false. And you are siding with somebody you don't even know, and you don't even know the story." Well, I ended up getting a divorce in that second marriage, and got an apartment, and I decided that I was going to move away. The only way I could get away from this guy was if I moved away. I talked to my kids. They're getting older. My son was going on 21. My daughter was in a senior in high school, and I always told my kids everything, which probably was a mistake also. Didn't need to, include them in everything. But they were my life. They were the only people I had. I didn't have friends to talk to vent to unload to, or anything. And so that's why I did what I did. And so I moved away. And but before moving away, my daughter was still in senior in high school. She wanted to have something for Halloween, a costume for Halloween. So I went to Goodwill, and I was shopping and looking for an outfit for her, and I called her up and I said, what do you want? Give me an idea. There's this and this and this. And so she wasn't really, and she didn't really know what she wanted to be. She just says, well, Mom, just, grab whatever. I trust your choice. So we hung up, and I looked up, and there he was. And I'm not joking around here. He was right there in front of me, staring at me, and I'm like, what in the hell are you doing here? How did you even know I was here? And he says, well, that's not important. What's important is that I need to tell you that my wife passed away, which I knew she did. And he says, I'm alone now. I don't have anybody. I only have he says, my other daughter, my half-sister, died. I don't know how many years back from that. But I have no one but you. And he says, I'm really sorry for trying to ruin your life for the past 6 years. Do you think we can just forget about that and start over? I told him, no. There's no way I am going to start over. You had your chance to show me that we could have a really good relationship, and you chose to do what you did. So no, I'm done with you. Well, can't we be friends on Facebook? So whatever. And I told him no. Well, that was the end of him contacting me. I had never heard from him ever again until about September of last year. He sent me a friend request on Facebook. I just ignored it. So what I'm trying to say is that if you think that finding your birth parents will make your life better, just think about that. People always told me that it's best to leave the past in the past. And I have found that out more often than I should have. But yeah, I know you want to know them. And I know you're curious. And, they gave you up for a reason. My birth parents gave me up because they weren't married. Family didn't understand. My birth mother, she probably could have, but she was an alcoholic, so she was in and out of rehab a lot. And her dad, like I said, wouldn't have approved, so it would have been a mess for her. She wanted to avoid that, so she gave me up. They give you up, I don't think she didn't love me. I'm sure she loved me in her own way, and that's probably why she chose to give me up. And my birth father, I found out, came after her with a hanger when she was adopted with me, and that was pregnant with me, and that's why she chose to go into hiding while she was pregnant with me. So your mom and dad that you have now, it might be tough with them right now, and it might be the greatest relationship ever, and that's awesome if it is. But if it's bad, don't go looking for them. Don't go looking for your birth parents. Keep them in the past. Just move forward and try to heal from whatever damage your adoptive parents caused, whatever dysfunction you grew up in with them. And just be accepting of who your adoptive parents are and try to repair a relationship with them. I'm living with my adoptive parents again, and my mom has since apologized up and down for what happened back then, and it's nice. I have a second chance with my mom and dad to have a good relationship. They're in their 80s. My dad is sick. He gets confused every once in a while. My mom, she's, got a poor heart, and I feel that God brought me back here so that I had a chance. I had a chance to repair and kind of have some sort of a relationship with them. And hearing my mom apologize really meant the world to me. So I think that, like I said, if you were adopted and you're thinking about finding your birth parents, just don't do it.